Hello, everybody, and welcome to our video series on making sustainability actionable in sourcing and procurement. In this video series, we explore the different dimensions of the procurement operating model and what you can do to ensure that sustainability is embedded for lasting success. Today, we speak with Maximilian Droste, project manager at AMC Consulting, a specialized supply chain and procurement consultancy from Germany, to discuss the process dimension of the operating model, because we want to learn how organizations can consistently include sustainability considerations in their sourcing decisions. Maximilian, thanks for joining me today and welcome.
Yeah, hi Fabian. Thank you very much for having us and having me. So it's a pleasure to be here and a big topic to discuss. So I'm looking forward to the questions and our content.
Well, from what I hear, you're a specialist for processes as a consultancy, and so therefore I figured that you're the best people to speak to. So pleasure to have you. So let's jump right in. And the first question that we had was, what is holding organizations usually back from embedding sustainability in their procurement processes?
Yeah, you just said it. We are specialized in processes. We enjoy it, maybe opposed to other people. And I think one of the main points that is holding organizations back is number one, a lack of process. So they don't even have a defined process. And if they have a defined process, it's sitting somewhere in a shelf at a quality department, but not in the relevant actors' hands.
Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, like, I think a lot of organizations already have a lot of different processes established, like category management, just to name one example. What are other areas where you really feel that there's an opportunity to drive and embed sustainability now, especially if you're just starting and you don't have that consideration yet?
So maybe a little bit different point of view, but yes, I would say that if people and if organizations have category management in place, the maturity level of the process is just not there yet. So you said, yes, a lot of organizations have them in place, but they're still sitting hidden somewhere. So a lot of customers that and organizations that we see and that we work with, in the first talks that we have, we ask if they have processes, and it always hinted towards the quality department. Yes, yeah, of course, we have a purchasing process, which is usually the main process that they have, and to the level where we have a specific sourcing process or category management or supplier relationship management processes. I don't think the maturity is there yet in a lot of organizations. And if they do have a process, most of the time, it has been designed at some desk, maybe in the basement, to be a little bit rough, but not with the relevant actors in charge. So the purchasing department and the supply chain management department, they are the ones that are in charge of the process, maybe not how it's exactly written in the company and in the quality manual, but they are in charge of the content. And so that's one of the things that we always see. The content is not very mature when it comes to the topic in general. And then if you add the sustainability basis on top of it, it becomes even more complex and unclear. And most of the time, we do not see any sustainability topics yet embedded in purchasing processes.
I think it's a little bit due to the fact that, like, people often implement like the traditional best practices, like the 7-step process for category management or strategic sourcing. And at the time, that was just not a topic, right? It's very similar to things like digitalization. When you ask people, so like, what is the role of digitalization? There's no chart on that. So it's not thought about. So that's, I think, a little bit the challenge that you just described. That in the basement, where I also do my best thinking, you might just forget some of these aspects, and especially if you rely on the blueprint from 20 years ago, well, certain things are missing. But that's actually a really great opportunity then, and I think that's where people bring you in as well. How can you design now a process, and how should you think about processes to embed it and to bring sustainability really into it, and not just as a side note, but like maybe more of a core consideration?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. One thing that we always work on and try to get across as a message is you don't have to reinvent the wheel and come up with a new process. So we have already so many processes, and they have been working, as you said, some of them for more than 20 years. Category management has been along for quite some time. We are just missing this level and this part of sustainability. So one of the main things that we always propose is, please do not create a new purchasing sustainability process, because it's just adds on, or come, you know, if you take a look at the sustainability or the supply chain due diligence law and regulation in Germany right now, please do not create a new process for the Lieferkettengesetz. Make sure that you use these very mature processes like supplier relationship management, like sourcing, and sit down with the team, sit down with the relevant actors and understand how you can incorporate certain sustainability aspects into these existing processes. That's a lot more helpful, and it's going to be a lot easier to implement and roll out through the organization if you use something that's already in place. I think that's one of the main starting points.
And you're not rocking the boat as much, right?
Correct.
So it's like it's basically like if you're just adding into it something, then that's a lot easier to stomach than to have now to run through an additional type of process. Earlier you told me that you actually, like, how do you approach it? Like, how do you actually bring the people now on board to do exactly that? I think you talked a little bit about workshops before we now got into this call, but can you explain a little bit of how do you bring people along, and how, like, just so that it becomes very tangible for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually we come with best practice, right? So we have something in mind that has worked in multiple branches, in multiple industries, but it's always an individual approach for the customer and the organization we work with. And what I always find very important is to have a goal, to have a company goal. So you know, I find the translation a little bit bad in English, but without a real goal, every direction is the right direction. So one big starting point in order to sit down is to understand, what does our organization want to achieve? Do we have a goal for climate neutrality? Do we have a waste goal? What is it that our company as a whole finds important? So that's a good starting point, understanding what the goal is, and then coming together and involving these actors, right? So in a lot of organizations, we have maybe a very mature sustainability team that has no idea about procurement processes. Yet on the other hand, we have a procurement team that has been very much focused on procurement and supply chain processes, but doesn't understand all the sustainability aspects. So as usual, one of the main points is to bring them together, sit on the same table, sit in a room and understand each other's perspectives and explain where they are coming from. And then if you have a goal defined, it's perfect to add on to these processes as a starting point. So understanding each other's opinion and importance is one of the main starting points.
And you just mentioned a couple of key processes where now this joint team can actually, or that it should think about. You talked about category management, we talked about supplier relationship management, and you mentioned sourcing as well, which is obviously our core activity. But where do you think technology can play a role, and what is the role that technology can play in really now driving this consistency into these processes?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned two really big and important points here. Technology and solutions in general, but also consistency, right? So because if you have the best practice and nothing happens, it doesn't mean anything. Or the other way around, you have the best tool and you have no process, also nothing happens. So when we talk about processes and different levels and different aspects here, I think one brief excursion that I would like to do is to distribute the processes a little bit. So when we talk about strategic processes, like we just mentioned, category management, supplier relationship management, that's where you set the framework for how your purchasing organization works. Once you have defined a clear category management process with goals, with understanding what's important for this category, you come to the next level of tactical processes like sourcing, right? So how do you buy things? Because once you've defined how you want to buy in the future, it's a lot easier to implement this through the sourcing process. And now we get to the next step, digitalization, technology, tools, which we've seen such a variety arise in the last couple of years that really makes buyers and purchasers' life a lot easier once you have a good process. But The other word that you said is consistency. So I think where technology comes in place is helping to reduce complexity.
Yeah.
We live in such a complex world. We are looking at processes where you have multiple departments, multiple actors, multiple roles involved, and the processes that we design for the future are not built around one person anymore. They are built out of a network.
Yeah.
So once you work across networks, across roles, functionalities, it becomes very important to have a tool that drives this consistency and helps you communicate throughout the organization. Hey, I'm done with my part of this process. Please, sustainability office, do yours. Okay, I am done. Let's go back to sourcing, right? So I think that's where the key development is going to be for technologies and solutions to play a part.
That's very interesting, because this idea of, first of all, different providers that are needed potentially is something that we will pick up on in our next video, where we talk to EcoVadis about the role of technology. And this idea of ecosystems that you just mentioned, that's another video, that will be the final video of the series. So therefore, I think very much aligned with what we are proposing in our white paper, to really have all of those different aspects in mind when thinking about sustainability and how to actually embed it in sourcing and procurement. So with that, Max, thank you very, very much for joining me today and for your insights. It's very clear that AMC is passionate about processes and how to actually design and embed them. So thank you very much for joining me today. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Same here. Looking forward to the video series.
Thank you. And to our audience, please make sure to tune in to the next episode of this video series on technology. So see you soon. Bye-bye now.